like up the video, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Okay, let's move into some climate change news. Climate change news. That kind of thing. And I know you are. I know you are. This is a tweet from Cosmological. Canadian ice caps disappear, confirming 2017 scientific prediction. The St. Patrick Bay ice caps disappear, a chilling prediction now realized. Fine illustrations. If you all can see this, this is the 1959 extent of ice caps. 2001, 2014, 15. Just show this to any dumb, knuckle-headed, knuckle-dragging climate denier if you're ever in a climate brawl. Anybody following the climate militia guy on Twitter, it's pretty funny. He's like taking the Q, the Punisher logo, right, and which the Q followers like to do, and he's taking the Punisher logo and he's calling himself climate militia. And he goes out and like fights climate deniers on Twitter. It's pretty funny. Anyways, if you're in a discussion with climate deniers, and why would you be? I mean, just god dang. There's just no evidence that CO2 causes forcing. Dude, the CO2 has gone up. Can you see the ice melting in front, or is that your brain that's melting? And speaking of climate deniers, Catmandu, I thought it was my Wi-Fi. No, it's not you, it's me. I apologize. I know it's a little bit buffery. I don't know if I can fix that right this second. But it's kind of coming through. I can see that it's kind of coming through. Jay Ackert, Climate Brawl. Yes, exactly. He has a hashtag Climate Brawl, which I think is pretty great. Anyways, he's up for the fight, and I dig it. Let's go to this article from The Guardian. The 4 types of climate denier and why you should ignore them all. This is from Damian Carrington. The shill, the grifter, the egomaniac, and the ideological fool. Each distorts the urgent global debate in their own way. Hold on. Let me get this straight. A new book described as deeply and fatally flawed by an expert reviewer recently reached the top of Amazon's bestseller list for environmental science and made it into a weekly... Dang it, Guardian, please stop doing all this. It's annoying. Made it into a weekly top 10 list for all nonfiction titles. How did this happen? Because as Brendan Behan put it, there's no such thing as bad publicity. In an article promoting his book, oh, here we go again, with Michael Shellenberger, with jaw-dropping hubris, apologizes on behalf of all environmentalists for the climate scare we created over the last 30 years. Oh my God. Shellenberger was named a hero of the environment by Time magazine, god dang it, in 2008, and is a loud advocate of nuclear power, but the article was described by 6 leading scientists as cherry-picking, misleading, and containing outright falsehoods. The article was widely republished. He's a good person to get into a climate brawl with. Like, tell Michael Shellenberger to shut the hell up. You disgusting, disingenuous asshole. The article was widely republished even after being removed from its first home, Forbes, for violating the title's editorial guidelines on self-promotion, adding further heat to the storm. And this is why all those who deny the reality or danger of the climate emergency should be ignored. Obviously, I have broken my own rule here, but only to make this vital point once and for all. The science is clear, the severity understood at the highest levels everywhere, and serious debates about what to do are turning into action. The deniers have nothing to contribute to this. other than to stall this action. However infuriating they are, arguing with them or debunking their theories is likely to generate publicity or money for them. It also helps to generate a fake air of controversy over climate action that provides cover for the vested interest seeking to delay the end of the fossil fuel age. But the deniers are not all the same. They tend to fit into one of four different categories: the shill, the grifter, the egomaniac, and the ideological fool. The shill is the easiest to understand. He, and it is almost always he, is paid by vested interests to emit clouds of confusion about the science or economics of climate action. This uncertainty creates a smokescreen behind which polluters can lobby against measures that cut their profits. A sadder case is that of the grifters. They have found themselves earning a living by grinding out contrarian articles for right-wing media outlets. Do they actually believe the stuff they write? It doesn't matter. They just warm their hands on the outrage, count the clicks, and wait for the paycheck. The egomaniacs are also tragic figures. They are disappointed, frustrated people whose careers have stalled and who can't understand why the world refuses to give full reverence to their brilliance. They are desperate for recognition, and when it stubbornly refuses to arrive, they are drawn to make increasingly extreme pronouncements in the hope of finally being proved a dogma-busting 21st century Galileo. The ideological fool is the fourth type of climate denier, and they can be intelligent, but they are utterly blinded by their inane, no-limits version of the free market creed. The climate emergency requires coordinated global action, they observe, and that looks horribly like communism in disguise. Yes. They could explore the many credible climate action plans being pursued, including by those on the political right, but their cognitive dissonance forces them to the conclusion that because stale intervention is wrong, acting to avert climate danger cannot be right. Oh, state intervention is wrong, excuse me. It's very important to get that word right. Intellectual gymnastics to expose climate alarmism then follow naturally. But why do I say ignore them all? The climate crisis is urgent and we need debate to drive action. However, vigorous debates over action are already taking place in good faith all over the world, from the tops of governments to the smallest local action groups. Every nation in the world signed up to the 2015 Paris Climate Deal, pledging to keep global heating below 2°C and ideally to 1.5°C. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change involves thousands of international scientists and is arguably the greatest scientific endeavor in history. Oh, this is all really great news. However, it has spent 3 decades spelling out in painstaking detail how humanity is causing global heating, how catastrophic that threatens to be, and how drastic action is required to avert the worst. However, the one thing that they're not doing is telling you how bad the situation is and how far corporations and governments combined and these think tanks that probably fund some of these climate denier sites, and probably Michael Shellenberger, they're trying to make you feel like the problem isn't as bad as it is. That is the conspiracy. The conspiracy is not that climate change is a hoax. The conspiracy is that they don't want you to know how bad it is and how quickly it's evolving. They're trying very, very hard not to let you know how bad the situation is. That is the conspiracy, and it is a conspiracy, and that's what's happening. That's why there was such a backlash against Michael Moore, because everybody wants you to know that we're going to have this bright Green New Deal future, eco economy where we can have green growth. That is a fallacy. The world of finance and business is catching up fast with science. Okay, here comes the techno-utopian or techno-hopium. I mixed hopium and utopia together. You like that? Utopium. Tastes good. Smell the utopium. In short, no sane or serious. The world of finance and business is catching up fast with science, and almost all the technology needed already exists. In short, no sane or serious actor can countenance denial of climate danger. Bad faith arguments motivated by greed, egomania, or ideology have nothing to add, unless that greed, egomania, and ideology include green growth. Which brings me to the U.S. President Donald Trump. Political leaders are the exception to the rule. Their climate idiocy should be challenged as they hold actual power, but even in this case, Reality is fast debunking their proclamations. In the U.S., coal is dying because green energy is cheaper and cleaner. However, great Trump claims he will make the miners. Even if Trump and Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro persist, other nations will begin to ostracize them via trade sanctions and border taxes. As for the shill, grifter, egomaniac, and ideological fool, the reality of increasing climate impacts and successful action is fast exposing them as well. Those willing to employ the shills and grifters are dwindling. Are they now? Are they? The book I started with has now been knocked off the environmental bestsellers list, fittingly enough, by one published by the environmental hero Rachel Carson in 1951. I can't profess to know what Shellenberger's motivation was. Money. Money. But one thing is clear, the egomaniacs and ideological fools will get the place in history they so lust for. It will be a small footnote marking the useful idiots of the climate war. All right. Well, that was, vaguely interesting. I like anybody who takes Michael Shellenberger to task. Michael the Shellenberger. Utopium. Get yours today. Hopium in my utopium. Utopium VG. You guys like that? That's good. Okay. All right. Spells like Teen Spirit. The Last Monkey. I noticed many grasshoppers today in Europe. Never seen them in those numbers. That's interesting because there's actually quite a few grasshoppers here. And they've kind of gone away because it's gotten hot, but we had a lot of grasshoppers in general over the last couple months. Okay, let's move on to the last article I wanted to cover. This is from... No, this is not from... Help me. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. Let me try and find out what I'm trying to get at. Dag nabbit. Here we go. From the Washington Post, wildfires, record warmth, and rapidly melting ice. Arctic climate goes further off the rails this summer. This is from 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, 2 days ago, July 29th. The Arctic summer of 2020 is one that has been marked by raging fires in the far north, with smoke extending more than 1,000 miles downwind, along with alarming new temperature records, and ice melt. Ice melt. Oh, CO2 is not a problem. CO2 is not causing the temperature to rise. Okay. While rapid Arctic climate change is not exactly news, the region is warming at about 3 times the rate of the rest of the world. The manifestations of this phenomenon are increasing in severity, scope, and societal consequences. This week, for example, with blazes raging across Siberia, smoke smothered the skies all the way into portions of Alaska. And Svalbard, or Norwegian Arctic archipelago, has seen staggering warming rates in recent years. All-time temperature records were set, turning already receding glaciers into mush, covered by so much turquoise meltwater that it was visible from space. The Svalbard Archipelago is one of the fastest warming places on Earth, with sea ice and glaciers on the decline. In Longyearbyen, Svalbard, the northernmost inhabited settlement with more than 1,000 residents, temperatures soared to 71.2 degrees, or 21.7 Celsius, on July 25th, setting a record high for this location. Longyearbyen had a string of 4 days that exceeded 68 degrees Celsius. That is a heat wave for Longyearbyen. Such a high temperature had only been seen once before, in July of 1979. Don't call it an isolated incident. We'll call it a trend, or don't call it a trend. At the same location, the overnight low temperature failed to fall below 62.2 degrees. God. On the 28th, setting a record for the warmest low temperature. Holy moly. This is 6.3 degrees warmer than the previous record, 6.3 degrees, which was set just 2 days prior on July 26th. Yeah. Record temperatures, records falling year after year, every single year, in succession. No, this couldn't possibly be caused by CO2 forcing warming. No, not at all. This couldn't be caused by a very simple cause and effect that any child can understand. But it takes an adult, quote unquote, genius to figure out all these formulas and, graphs and all these things that say that this isn't true. Okay. Occam's razor says you're a stupid ass. That's what Occam's razor says. No. You just out-scienced yourself. The average high and low temperatures at this time of year in Longyearbyen are 49 degrees and 41 degrees. Wow. Fahrenheit. The ice cap in Svalbard has the highest surface mass loss of any Arctic ice sheet so far this summer and hit a record for its daily melt rate on July 25th when temperatures spiked, said Xavier Vetwijs, a scientist at the University of Liège, Belgium. Oh, no. Yes, at Belgium. With respect to the average, the melt has been 4 times larger than normal, and it is the highest rate on record since at least 1980, Vetwijs said via email. He added that the last several days in July 2020 brought the highest temperatures seen over the permanent ice area across the archipelago. Vetwijs says the exceptional warmth and ice melt in Svalbard are a result of the record warm air present across the Russian Arctic since weather patterns have drawn this air northward. He also cited earlier than average sea ice melt with virtually no sea ice present in the area during July. No sea ice present. The ice normally puts a lid on summer temperatures. Arctic wildfire emissions set records. While Siberia's extreme temperatures, including a likely all-time Arctic temperature record of 100.4 degrees recorded in June, that's 38 Celsius, and Verkhoyansk, which lies above the Arctic Circle, has received the most attention. It's the wildfires that are having ripple effects far beyond the region. These fires have continued on the relentless pace since June. Each day, smoke containing planet-warming greenhouse gases has poured into the air, while on the ground, flames have been destabilizing permafrost by burning away protective vegetation above the permanently frozen soil. This too adds to climate change since it frees up carbon and methane. On many days during July, a milky sheen of smoke thick enough to obscure the ground was visible on satellite imagery extending across an expanse that would cover much of the lower 48 states. The most severe fires have been accompanied by towering smoke plumes known as pyrocumulonimbus clouds or pyrocbs. I'll just say pyrocbs. Arctic wildfire carbon emissions, driven primarily by Siberian fires, hit a record level in July. According to Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service, a European Union science agency based in Reading, England, such data stretches back 18 years with an increase in Arctic fire emissions seen during that period. Between July 1 and July 23, the estimated July total carbon emissions from fires in the Siberian Arctic amount to 100 metric megatons of carbon dioxide, and Mark Parrington, a senior scientist with the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service via email. Parrington said this is on top of the 59 metric megatons of carbon dioxide emitted from Arctic Circle fires in June. The large cluster of fires is well within the Siberian Arctic Circle has been burning with high intensity, higher than the highest daily total calculated for the region in 2019 for several days, and looks set to continue, Parrington said last Friday, a prediction that has turned out to be true. Via Twitter on Wednesday, Parrington said July 2020 has witnessed escalation in Arctic fires previously unseen in data gathered by the Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring Service. Satellite estimated wildfire carbon emissions, parenting said, are running at twice the amount seen during the previous record Arctic fire season, which was last year. So last year was a record, and then this year is a record. What does that mean? That means it keeps getting hotter, guys. That's what that means. Smoke from these fires, including ash and carbon monoxide, spread across the Chukchi Sea as far as Alaska. Siberia has experienced record warmth for the calendar year. So far, the Siberian fires, and in particular, the prolonged heat, have already been directly tied to human-caused climate change. In a rapid analysis, researchers found that the prolonged January to June heat in northern Siberia was made at least 600 times as likely by human-caused climate change. This led them to conclude that such an event would be nearly impossible in the absence of global warming. Or how about just totally, completely, absolutely impossible? We could say it like that too. In addition, other parts of the Arctic are reeling from climate change-related effects, along with transient weather features. Meanwhile, the extreme temperatures in the Scandinavian Arctic and Siberia have spilled over to northern Canada too. On July 25, a temperature of 71.4 degrees was recorded in Eureka, Nunavut, located in the Canadian Arctic at 80 degrees north latitude, according to Mika Rantanen, a researcher at the Finnish Meteorological Institute. That may be the highest temperature on record so far north. Woo! It's getting hot in here. Is it just me? In an example of how extreme weather events can interact with long-term climate change-related trends, a strong low-pressure area spun up early this week over the Beaufort Sea, north of Alaska, potentially hastening sea ice melt. The low is reminiscent of a powerful storm that churned the sea ice cover during the summer melt of 2012. That storm helped to accelerate ice loss, leading to an all-time record low ice extent. Despite being of similar intensity, the recent storm is unlikely to have the same effects on the trajectory of the melt season, sea ice experts say. However, we are at record low extent, remember that, and volume, by the way. Lower than 2012, by the way, as far as the volume goes. While noting that sea ice extent is in record low territory, the storm struck a region full of the thickest ice in the Arctic. Most of the ice loss this summer has come on the Eurasian side of the Arctic, including north of Siberia, where the northern sea route very probably opened at its earliest date on record a full month earlier than average. A full month, imagine that. The key really is the timing of the storm and the thickness of the ice that's there. Julian Strove, a senior scientist at the National Snow and Ice Data Center in Boulder, Colorado, said in an email, there is a chance that the storm could speed up ice melt, but it depends on a number of factors. Since storms tend to cause ice divergence, if the storm pushes some of the ice out into the Beaufort Sea towards the Bering Strait, then it will likely melt out, as the ocean temperatures there are up to 5 Celsius warmer than average, Strove said. Walt Meyer, an NSIDC colleague of Strove's, noted that the 2012 storm struck later in the melt season and in a region where the ice cover was already broken up and was fairly dispersed, low concentration, so there was a lot of opportunity for the storm to kick up waves and really decimate the ice. This year, the ice in that region is, at least at the moment, looking more formidable. But it's more compacted and likely thicker, so this year's ice storm may not have the same impact in 2012. We shall see. As in 2012. The bottom line, almost uniformly, scientists studying Arctic warming emphasize now how swiftly changes are occurring throughout the vast region. A study published Wednesday in Nature Climate Change backs up that impression, showing that major portions of the region have been warming at a rate of 1.8 degrees per decade for 40 years, which constitutes an abrupt climate change event. There you go. When viewed in light of climate records of abrupt glacial episodes in the past. Yes. Yes. We are in an abrupt climate change event. That's where we're at. The study found that even the direst climate model scenarios tend to underestimate the recent pace and extent of climate change in the Arctic. Co-author Martin Stendel, a research scientist at the Danish Meteorological Institute, wrote via Twitter message that additional abrupt changes can only be avoided following a low emission scenario. Okie dokie. What is that low emission scenario? Well, Looks like everybody staying home, not going to work, not driving their cars, not getting on airplanes, locking down, etc., etc. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel at the links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there, and thanks so much.